Hey, welcome back. Have you ever felt a message was meant for you? Not an email or a text, but something deeper. A signal sent out into the void, against all odds, that somehow finds its way to your frequency. I have. It's why I'm always drawn to stories where the line between tragedy and something inexplicable gets blurred. I'm Ibnul J. Farabi, and this is the Unexplained Archive. Today, we're diving into a mystery that sits at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean, wrapped in steel and silence. It's April of 1915. The United States is not yet in the Great War, but its Navy is growing, learning the new rules of underwater warfare with a fleet of early submarines. One of these is the USS F-4, stationed at the beautiful, peaceful harbor of Honolulu. On a routine training dive, something goes catastrophically wrong. The F-4 submerges and simply never surfaces. The rescue attempt is immediate and desperate, but this is 1915. Sonar doesn't exist. Their tools are grappling hooks and hope. For days, they drag the ocean floor. When they finally find the F-4, it's in over 300 feet of water, far deeper than any diver can safely go. The Navy knows all 21 men inside are lost, but they need to understand why she sank. So, they undertake a monumental feat of engineering. They will raise the submarine from an unprecedented depth. It takes months. They use huge pontoons, cables, and agonizingly slow lift. Finally, they bring the F-4 to the surface and tow her into shallow water. Now, the salvage divers can enter. What they find is a tomb frozen in time. The crew, preserved by the cold, deep water. And the boat itself, a grim snapshot of a final, desperate moment. The investigation points to a corrosion hole in a battery lead, seawater flooding the battery well, creating chlorine gas, a quick and terrifying end. But as they meticulously document the scene, they find something that stops them cold. In the control room, they discover the ship's diving bell. For those who don't know, a diving bell is a communication device, a simple brass contraption with a mouthpiece and a whistle. To send a message, you'd speak into it while a sailor turned a handle, and the sound would travel through pipes to other compartments. And this diving bell, its handle was locked in the on position. Think about that. In their final, gas-filled moments, as the lights went out and the ocean pressed in, one sailor's last act was not to try and escape hatch. It wasn't to write a note. It was to open the ship's communication line. He was trying to send a message. But to whom? The other compartments were already filling with the same fatal gas. There was no one left to hear. The official report logged this eerie detail and moved on. A poignant footnote to a tragedy. But the story, for some, didn't end there. After the investigation, the Navy sealed the F-4's hull and scuttled her at sea, a final burial. The crew were laid to rest. And for a while, that was that. But then, the whispers started. Sailors stationed at Pearl Harbor, especially those on duty during the quiet, graveyard shifts, began reporting something strange. They'd hear it through the hulls of their own ships, or sometimes echoing faintly in empty corridors, the distinct, metallic sound of a diving bell whistle. Not a blast, but a faint, struggling transmission, like a wheel trying to turn. They called it the diving bell spirit. A haunting, a residual sound of that last, unfinished message, forever trying to be sent. Now, as an engineer, my mind immediately goes to the rational. Sound carries weirdly over water. Metal contracts and expands. Old pipes groan. The power of suggestion, especially in a place steeped in history like Pearl Harbor, is immense. We hear what we expect to hear. But there's another part of me, the storyteller, the guy who grew up listening to tales of jinn and restless spirits back in Bangladesh, that wonders. What if a moment of profound human urgency, of desperate attempted connection, can leave a kind of imprint? Not a ghost in a sheet, but a sonic fossil, a recording in the fabric of a place. What was in that message? It's the question that haunts me. Was it a warning? Check the battery leads. Was it a goodbye to a sweetheart back in Honolulu? Was it a prayer? Or was it simply a gasp, a final, instinctive reach for another human being in the dark? The diving bell, handle stuck on, becomes the ultimate symbol of communication severed. A message with a sender, but no receiver. I think about that sailor's hand on the handle. In the engineering world, we design for failure points. We ask, what's the worst-case scenario? But we can't design for the human impulse in that scenario, the need to connect, to warn, to be heard. That diving bell was the 1915 equivalent of hitting send on a text you know will never deliver. You do it anyway because the act itself is a form of hope, a defiance of the inevitable. I've spent nights in data centers, listening to the hum of servers, and thought about this. Our modern world is built on signals, packets of data flying through fiber optic cables, satellites, radio waves. We're surrounded by invisible messages. The story of the F-4 reminds me that at the heart of every advanced system is that same ancient human urge. We are creatures who need to say, "I am here. This is what happened. Remember me." So, is the diving bell spirit a real paranormal phenomenon? I can't prove it, but I believe the sound those sailors report is real, whether it's born of acoustics or memory. The tragedy of the F-4 left a deep scar on the naval community in Honolulu. Sometimes, places remember. They resonate with the past. The last message of the USS F-4 wasn't in words. It was in an action, a handle turned to on. And in a way, by telling this story, by listening to that silence, we are finally, all these years later, completing the circuit. We are becoming the receivers. Thank you for listening to this archive. If this story resonated with you, please share it with someone. Sometimes, the most important messages are the ones we pass on. For more deep dives into history's forgotten mysteries, subscribe to the Unexplained Archive wherever you get your podcasts. This is Ibnul J. Farabi from Light Not Studios. Until next time, keep listening.